Hi, folks, and welcome to the sixth and for the moment final episode of the Lay the Field series I've been doing. What I thought I'd do is take the opportunity just to run over a quick summary of what we've done so far and then wrap everything up with perhaps a few tips and suggestions that will allow you to progress with this strategy if you so desire. So we first kicked off with letting you see how to set up a lay the field trade using the Fairbot interface, manually inputting that in and setting it up so that all runners were laid in running at 1.5. We then essentially duplicated that by increasing the odds to 2.5 with a view to helping to reduce the potential liability by hopefully getting more runners matched at the slightly higher odds. This of course still wouldn't completely eliminate the overall liability if one runner happened to be matched and all the rest wasn't. You would still lose your whole liability. We then looked at converting that process into an automated strategy, if for no other reason than to save the amount of time and effort in creating those lay the field trades using the manual mechanism within Fairbot. And so by setting up an automated strategy, you could essentially assign that to any number of races that you so desired, and Fairbot would just get on with it one after the other, creating those lay the fields. Once we'd done that, it was a relatively straightforward process of modifying that automated strategy and implementing what might be described as a distributed lay the field trade, whereby one could take the overall liability that one had beforehand, split it up into smaller chunks and create multiple lay the fields within the same market but at different staking levels, odd levels. And again, this was done so that to minimise the overall liability and encourage more runners to be matched. One of the things that hopefully you noticed when doing that, as we watched some of the racing going ahead during the examples, was that there was quite often a time where you could trade out for a profit without relying on multiple runners being matched at their corresponding lay prices. And quite often the green up potential was greater than the actual potential there would be depending on how many runners were actually matched. Still, however, of course, keeping in mind that it doesn't alleviate the risk of one runner sweeping through all the lays and no other runner doing so. You would still lose the full stake. But the main thing to take from those first three episodes is perhaps the fact that the lay the field strategy is not a panacea. It's not the holy grail. It doesn't work for every single race. You will lose money if you try to do so. You need to do some sort of study, some sort of analysis to establish which races are better. Now, the lay the field strategy has been around for ages, and the general consensus of opinion, if you wish to do this, is that whilst you can implement it on any race, it's generally better to do it on competitive sprints up to a mile, ideally with at least 8 runners. That would probably be the general consensus. You can still get losers though, of course. This is horse racing after all, and equally you can still get lots of winners in longer races. So you need to spend some time trying to identify which races are the most suitable. And to that end, I flagged up in one of the episodes where to go and find the Betfair data files, which are available free for download from the Betfair site. Simple delimited files that you can download and import into a spreadsheet or indeed a database manager, from where you can then do further analysis, keeping in mind that those files can be used for other strategies as well, not just lay the field. So if you were into dobbing, for example, you could perhaps go in and try and find suitable horses to dob. Once you've done all that, hopefully you'll start to find particular courses, race types, distances, field sizes, and narrow it down and use the lay of the field simply as another strategy that you can call upon. But certainly you can't apply it to every single race. Now, one of the things you might have noticed while I've been rabbiting on is Fairbot's busy chugging away in the background, and it's currently doing a slightly modified version of the distributed lay the field automated strategy that I introduced you to in episode 3. The reason for that is it's been chugging away all afternoon, or much of the afternoon, and if I pull up the watch list, you'll see there's a whole load of results that's come in. Now, ignore the loss down the bottom. The fact that there's a loss there is irrelevant for the reasons of letting you see this. This is a mechanism whereby you can collect further data. Now, you can do it my way, the way I'm doing it at the moment. I'm in simulator mode, using a stake of £100, just collecting all the results from this afternoon, where I've assigned the demo-LTF strategy to it. But what I want to do is flag you up to a number of things, keeping in mind that I've just selected the vast majority of races on today. I have made no attempt yet again to identify what might be suitable and what might not be suitable. But what I want to flag up to you just now is take a look at Newcastle, for example. So far we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 races, and 4 of them have all returned a loss. So right away, just by doing this today, it should jump out at you and say, well, perhaps Newcastle on the all-weather isn't suited to this particular strategy. Now, of course, that's a very small sample size, and there could be other factors involved. I don't know what the weather's like there. We've got relatively small field sizes at Newcastle. That could be a factor. It could be, if I just quickly switch to this one and move that out of the way, yeah, you can see that this particular race wasn't that competitive. So that could be another factor as well. As I say, I made no attempt to identify any of these races as being suitable or not. But you can use that mechanism. Now keep in mind, however, if you do this to collect data, you'll need to do it over quite a number of days, and if you do it in simulation mode without ever going into Betfair and placing a real live bet, Betfair will throttle your API access. So be wary of that. So you might do this for a little while, but what I would encourage you to do every day, come out of simulation mode and just stick a bet in via Fairbot or whatever application you're using. You should also test it in a live environment as well, and keeping in mind the minimum bet size for Betfair now is only £1. So you can see at the moment, if I'm using 100 and I've effectively lost 100 so far, if that was changed to £1, you'd be losing £1. And on some days you'll win £1. So it will cancel each other out, and you can use it in real mode to actually collect additional data if you want to do it that way. Okay, so you could then, having established in this particular case that Newcastle isn't great, go into those database files that you've downloaded from the website I showed you in episode 4 and do a further analysis just to confirm that Newcastle is indeed a poor choice for this strategy. It just may be that today happens to be a bad day for doing it at Newcastle. So that's something that you need to be aware of. Okay, so to summarise all of that, you can't use this in every race, and you need to identify which markets, which race types, which distances, which field sizes, and so on are most suited to this, and that's why you would make use of those those database files that I flagged up to you. So hopefully that's all been of interest to you. What I'll do shortly is give you some other tips and suggestions that you might do, but I'll confess that the lay the field strategy is not something that I use. I haven't used it for some time, but in those days Fairbot didn't have an automated strategy facility, and having explored this over the past few videos, it may be something that I will revisit again. So I'll be doing the same sort of things that hopefully I've encouraged you to do as well. But by all means, pop a comment down below, let me know if this was useful to you at all, and in the meantime let me flag up some other potential variations on a theme that you may or may not want to investigate. Now the purists will say that oh, these aren't lay the field, and I suppose they would be right. It's not the traditional lay the field, but I'm going to include them here because you would set them up by first of all establishing a lay the field trade, so that it might be something else that you want to have a wee look at. So first one, how many times have you watched a market and a horse that comes in, hits a particular point and then bounces out again? You could essentially simulate that with lay the field if you're using an automated strategy. So for example, imagine that you put a lay the field strategy at, let's say, 2.5. What you want to do is effectively oppose the first runner that hits 2.5. So you could set up a rule within your automated strategy which simply just monitored when a matched bet occurred. So as soon as there was a fully matched bet, that rule would automatically cancel every other unmatched bet. So you would be left with a lay on the runner that was first to hit that 2.5 mark. Now there's nothing, of course that runner could either go on to lose the race completely, or it could bounce out and then come back in and win. So you would end up in that case losing your stake. However, there's no reason why you can't still have a green up all facility within your automated strategy in the hope of catching that. In fact, if you were to go through some of these results today, you'll see that that's effectively what's happened. Let me just clear that out of the way. For example, that race that's just finished at Cheltenham, which was playing in the background while I've been talking, you'll see that there's actually only one runner has been matched at the various prices, and it bounced out, and it was matched at 3 thanks to the green up all option. So that was triggered before any of the other bets came in, any of the other lays were matched. So that's certainly a possibility. The other possibility, of course, is rather than placing a lay, you can actually place a trade. So when you're creating your lay the field strategy, rather than doing a lay, let me just go up here and edit it. So for example, if I come in here and do edit rule, what we're doing here is we are placing a back all lay all. Okay, what you can do instead is do a trade. Okay, place a trade, and you can then do a lay to back and then have an offset fixed in somewhere. Let me just scroll that down a bit. Okay, so you can do an offset in here for a number of ticks, and that will cover you for if it bounces out and then comes back in again. The only thing to do, however, is because that is only going to do it on one runner, you would need to use the apply to all option to do that. I'll let you investigate that on your own. Let me just cancel that and that. Option 2. In any particular market, let me just jump ahead to the next market, see where we are. I'm looking for one that's particularly, let's go to that Cheltenham one. If you look at that market there, you can imagine the top end of the market under normal circumstances. Those runners at the top half of the market can be expected, based on what the market thinks, that those runners would shorten in price. They have a better chance of winning the race, put it that way, than the ones in the bottom half of the market. Now with lay the field, what you're hoping to do is to get a number of runners matched at lower prices. Now if you place your lay the field at, let's say, 2.5 again, is it really that outrageous to think that those won't make it that far down, so they won't contribute to the potential profit because they'll never be matched? Now yes, of course, these runners can win, they can shorten, I know that, but generally speaking they don't do it as often as the ones at the top of the market. So you could have effectively a split lay the field, where in actual fact you're not laying the field completely, you're putting in 2 or more lay the fields where you're only laying a section of the market. So for example, you might have a lay the field where you have a condition that says if the horse's SP is below 10, lay it at 2. If it's between 10 and 20, lay it at 2.5. So if it's above 20, lay it at 3, for example. Now I've never tested that, I don't know if that would work, but that's a potential possibility. Another version of that, if you like, is to lay the field rather than at fixed odds, lay it at an offset. Again, we'll just call up this one here. That's maybe the quickest way to show you. If we click into here and choose the edit rule again, what we've got here is we are laying bets for all of the runners at fixed odds of 2.4 in this particular case. But if you choose best back odds, or even actually choose actual SP, that may be a better option, for instance, we're doing things in running, and then put in minus, I don't know, 50 ticks. So what will happen is, when this goes in running, this strategy will submit lays on all of the runners. It will still do £20 at where the lay stake is a liability, but it will do it on each runner 50 ticks below each runner's SP price. Again, I've never tested that. I don't know if that will work, but that's certainly something that you might consider. And what that's effectively doing is it's trying to make the outsiders, the ones least likely to shorten, have some sort of chance of contributing to the overall profit. And again, you can still have your green up all options, or your green out for a red, and so on. So clearly there's a number of other variations on a theme that you might want to think about. What's the other one? There was another one I had in my mind earlier on this morning. Oh yes, I think I might have mentioned it in one of the earlier videos. In all of these, we've been specifying a liability of 20 for a total of, in this particular case, a total of £100. There's nothing to stop you in this particular case of having, say, that skewed, so you have more money at the higher odds and less at the lower odds, or indeed invert that and put more money at the lower odds and less money at the higher odds. Still with a total of £100 in this particular example. That's something else that you might want to look at. In addition, while I'm here, these odds, I've picked those for no particular reason. I'm not saying they're optimal. You may find that it's better to move them higher, it's better to move them lower. I don't know. It's up to you. It's something that you need to experiment with. Okay, so I think we've got one more race coming in just now. It's about to start. That one was a winner. So we're looking at a slightly less loss overall. But keep in mind, as I say, none of these races were selected for being LTF in terms of being suitable for LTF. I just selected all the races for tonight. But you can see with the ones that are, there is certainly potential there, but there's a lot of work that you need to put in to try and figure out which ones are best for you. Okay, I think that's probably enough as far as this series is concerned. Let me know what you think, and perhaps we'll revisit some of those additional options that I gave at the end. I'll do those at some later date. For the now, thank you very much for watching. I'll speak to you later. Cheers.